reached Earth in 2157. Humanity celebrated for exactly 17 minutes. Then the translation software finished processing the message, and the celebration turned to ice-cold terror. It wasn't a greeting. It wasn't an invitation to join some galactic community. It was a desperate cry for help from a dying civilization, begging anyone listening to remember that they had existed. The message spoke of an unstoppable force sweeping across the galaxy, consuming entire star systems and leaving nothing but empty space behind. 12 advanced civilizations had already fallen. The 13th was sending this final transmission as their last planets burned. Earth's response? Radio silence. The politicians called it prudent caution. The military called it strategic non-engagement. The scientists called it insufficient data for decision-making. But in the end, it was simple fear that kept humanity hidden in the shadows of their little solar system, pretending they had never heard the screams echoing across the stars. For 3 years, the galaxy grew quieter. No more distress calls, no more desperate pleas, just an expanding void of silence that crept closer to Earth's little corner of space with each passing month. Humanity convinced themselves they had made the right choice. They were safe, they were smart, they were survivors, they were wrong. Because when you ignore a fire instead of helping to fight it, eventually that fire comes to your door. And when it arrives, you realize that all those voices you ignored weren't just calling for help. They were trying to warn you that nowhere in the galaxy was far enough to run. Now, as Earth's deep space sensors detect massive ships at the edge of their solar system, humanity faces a terrible truth. Sometimes the greatest mistake isn't joining a fight too early. Sometimes it's waiting until you're the only one left to fight at all. Admiral Sarah Chen stood in the observation deck of the Earth Defense Station Prometheus, watching the stars through reinforced transparent aluminum that had cost more than most countries' annual budgets. Each point of light represented billions of possibilities, and tonight every single one felt like a threat. "Admiral, we're receiving another transmission," Lieutenant Marcus Webb announced from behind her. His voice carried the same exhausted tension that had infected everyone aboard the station for the past 72 hours. Same source as before. Chen didn't turn around immediately. In the reflection of the viewing port, she could see Webb's pale face, the dark circles under his eyes that matched her own. The entire command crew looked like survivors of a plague, which she supposed they might be soon enough. "Play it," she said finally. The communications array crackled to life, filling the observation deck with static that gradually resolved into something far worse than silence. It was a voice, mechanical and cold, speaking in perfectly translated standard English. "Of Vex High addressing the primitive species of the third planet, your previous transmissions have been analyzed. Your technology assessed. Your resistance capabilities cataloged. You will surrender your planet's resources and population for immediate processing or face total annihilation. You have 72 hours to comply." The transmission ended, leaving them in the kind of silence that pressed against eardrums and made breathing feel deliberate. "Same message?" Chen asked, though she already knew the answer. "Word for word, Admiral. They've been broadcasting it on all frequencies for 3 days straight." Webb pulled up a holographic display showing communication intercepts. "But there's something else. We've detected massive energy signatures at the edge of the solar system. Whatever those ships are, they're not hiding anymore." Chen finally turned from the window, her reflection disappearing into the star field behind her. At 53, she was the youngest person ever to command Earth's orbital defenses, promoted rapidly through a combination of brilliant tactical thinking and the unfortunate reality that most of her superiors had died in training accidents involving experimental FTL drives that humanity still barely understood. "Data," she commanded, walking to the central holographic display that dominated the observation deck. The three-dimensional map of the solar system materialized in front of them, with Earth glowing blue-green at the center, and the familiar orbital paths of colonies on Mars, Europa, and Titan marked in soft white lines. But at the very edge, beyond Pluto's eccentric orbit, red markers indicated something that made Chen's stomach drop.
15 ships, Webb reported, highlighting each marker with a gesture.
Each one approximately 3 times the size of our largest dreadnought. They're holding position at the heliopause, but Admiral, the energy readings are unlike anything in our databases. Chen studied the display, her mind racing through tactical possibilities and finding each one more hopeless than the last. Earth's total military fleet consisted of 47 ships, most of them patrol vessels barely equipped for asteroid mining conflicts. Their 3 dreadnoughts were impressive by human standards, but compared to these alien vessels, they were mosquitoes facing eagles. "Have we heard anything from the other colonies?" she asked. "Mars Command went silent 6 hours ago," Webb replied grimly. "The last transmission was garbled, something about massive ships appearing in orbit. Europa Station stopped responding 3 hours later. Titan." He paused. "Titan's orbital platform was transmitting normally until 17 minutes ago. The implications settled over the deck like a physical weight. These aliens weren't just threatening Earth. They were systematically cutting off humanity's escape routes, isolating the home planet before moving in for whatever they considered processing." Admiral Chen to the bridge, her personal communicator crackled. It was Captain Rodriguez, her second in command. "We have incoming priority transmission from Earth Command." "On my way," she replied, then looked at Webb. "Continue monitoring those ships. If they move so much as a meter closer, I want to know immediately." The bridge of the Prometheus bustled with controlled chaos. The officers moved between stations with practiced efficiency, their faces grim but focused. The main view screen showed a direct link to Earth Command's war room, where General Harrison looked like he had aged a decade in the past 3 days. "Admiral Chen," Harrison began without preamble, "I'll cut straight to it. The President has rejected all proposals for evacuation. We're staying to fight." Chen felt her jaw tighten. "Sir, with respect, our current fleet strength gives us approximately 0 chance of success against those ships."
"We're aware of the odds," Harrison replied.
His eyes shifted slightly, and Chen realized he wasn't alone in the room. "But we've received some interesting intelligence about these aliens." "Tell her, Dr. Reyes." The woman stepped into view beside the general. Dr. Tide. Elena Reyes had been Earth's leading xenobiologist for 20 years, though until recently her work had been entirely theoretical. She looked exhausted but oddly excited, the way scientists did when they discovered something that changed everything they thought they knew. "Admiral, we've been analyzing the alien transmissions, not just their content but their structure, their origin points, everything we can determine about the technology behind them," Dr. Reyes began. "What we've found is troubling and promising." "Explain," Chen said. "The communication technology they're using is incredibly advanced, yes, but it shows signs of deterioration, decay, as if the beings operating it don't fully understand the systems they're using." Dr. Reyes pulled up her own data display. "More importantly, we've detected similar decay patterns in the energy signatures from their ships. Admiral, I don't think these aliens built this technology." Chen felt a chill run down her spine. "Are you saying they stole it?" "I'm saying they might be using salvage technology from the civilizations they've destroyed, Dr. Navarre," Reyes replied. "The ships are powerful, but they're also showing signs of inconsistent maintenance, jury-rigged repairs, and what appears to be incomplete understanding of their own weapon systems." General Harrison leaned forward. "Dr. Reyes believes these aliens are scavengers, Admiral. They destroy civilizations and take their technology, but they don't necessarily understand it fully. It might give us an advantage." Chen stared at the data scrolling across her personal display. The idea was both horrifying and hopeful. If these aliens were using technology they didn't fully comprehend, it meant their seemingly impossible advantages might have weaknesses. But it also meant they had destroyed at least 15 advanced civilizations to build their current fleet. "What about those distress calls from 3 years ago?" she asked. "The ones that made the politicians decide to maintain radio silence?" Dr. Reyes nodded grimly. "We believe those came from the last free civilization in this galactic arm. The aliens have been working their way through inhabited systems methodically. We're not their first target, Admiral. We're their latest target. And from the patterns we've observed, we might be their last target in this region of space." The bridge fell silent except for the quiet hum of life support systems and the occasional beep from monitoring stations. Chen processed the information, feeling the weight of command settling heavier on her shoulders. 15 alien ships filled with scavenged technology from dead civilizations, crewed by beings who had already perfected the art of destroying entire species? What's our timeline, she asked. Intelligence suggests they'll move within 48 hours, Harrison replied. They seem to follow a pattern: threaten, wait for panic to set in, then attack when resistance is at its lowest point. Chen nodded slowly. 2 days to prepare Earth's defenses against a force that had already consumed most of the galaxy. 2 days to find weaknesses in technology built by civilizations far more advanced than humanity. 2 days to prove that sometimes the species that survives isn't the strongest or the smartest, but the one too stubborn to surrender. General, I need everything we have on those alien ships transmitted to my tactical team immediately, she said. Every energy reading, every communication intercept, every scrap of data our sensors have collected. Already being transmitted, Harrison confirmed. Admiral, the President wanted me to convey something to you personally. Chen waited. He said to tell you that humanity has never backed down from a fight, even when the odds were impossible. He's counting on you to make sure we don't start now. The transmission ended, leaving the bridge in contemplative silence. Chen looked around at her crew, seeing determination mixing with fear in their faces. They were about to face an enemy that had destroyed civilizations with millions of years of advancement over humanity. But they were also about to prove something that no alien species had apparently considered: that sometimes the most dangerous opponent isn't the one with the best technology, but the one with nothing left to lose. All hands, this is Admiral Chen, she announced over the ship's communication system. In 48 hours, we're going to show these aliens something they've apparently never encountered before. We're going to show them what happens when you threaten humanity's home. A protest in the army. She paused, looking out at the stars where enemy ships waited in the darkness. They've conquered 15 civilizations using stolen technology and fear. But they made one crucial mistake. They assumed we'd be as easy to break as everyone else. They're about to learn that humans have a very different definition of surrender. All departments, begin combat preparations. We have work to do. Commander Jake Morrison had always believed that the best engineers were the ones who could fix impossible problems with whatever happened to be lying around. Standing in the belly of Earth's orbital shipyard, surrounded by the controlled chaos of humanity's most desperate engineering project, he was about to put that philosophy to the ultimate test. Commander, the alien ship configurations don't match anything in our tactical databases, Chief Engineer Patricia Valdez announced, pulling up holographic displays that showed detailed scans of the enemy vessels. Their hull composition appears to be some kind of adaptive metal that shifts density based on incoming threats. Morrison studied the readouts while dozens of technicians worked frantically around them. The shipyard, normally used for routine maintenance and the occasional new frigate construction, had been transformed into something resembling a mad scientist's laboratory. Every available surface was covered with disassembled weapons systems, experimental armor plating, and prototype devices that had never been tested outside computer simulations. Adaptive metal, Morrison mused, running a hand through his graying hair, which means conventional kinetic weapons will be largely useless after the first few hits. Exactly, but there's something interesting about the energy signatures, Valdez continued, highlighting specific portions of the sensor data. The power distribution across their ships isn't uniform. There are significant fluctuations that suggest they're operating systems beyond their technical understanding.
Morrison nodded.
Dr. Reyes's theory about scavenged technology was looking more credible by the hour. Show me those fluctuations. The display shifted, showing energy patterns across the alien fleet. Morrison's experienced eye immediately caught what Valdez was referring to. The ship's power distribution looked like a patchwork quilt, with some systems running at peak efficiency while others showed clear signs of overload or underutilization. It's like they're trying to operate 15 different types of engines with one control system, Morrison realized. Each ship they've captured probably had its own technology base, and they've been trying to integrate everything without really understanding the underlying principles. Which gives us an opportunity, Valdez said with the first smile Morrison had seen from her in 3 days. If we can create electromagnetic interference at the right frequencies, we might be able to disrupt their ability to coordinate between different technological systems. Morrison turned to address the engineering teams scattered throughout the shipyard. Listen up, people. Change of priorities. We're not trying to outgun ships 3 times our size anymore. We're going to outthink aliens who've been using stolen homework for their entire military campaign. The response was immediate. Engineers began clustering around different workstations, their conversations shifting from desperate impossibilities to creative possibilities. Morrison had always been proud of humanity's greatest talent, the ability to find unconventional solutions when conventional ones were completely inadequate. Team Alpha, I want you working on electromagnetic pulse weapons specifically tuned to disrupt mixed technology systems, he called out. Team Beta, focus on adaptive ammunition that can shift its properties mid-flight. Team Gamma, see if we can modify our jump drives to create localized space-time distortions. Dr. Sarah Kim, one of Morrison's most innovative engineers, looked up from a workstation covered with what appeared to be partially disassembled mining equipment. Commander, I've been thinking about their adaptive hull armor. What if we don't try to penetrate it at all? Explain. Their hull adapts to incoming threats, right? But adaptation requires energy and processing power. What if we hit them with so many different types of simultaneous attacks that their adaptation systems can't keep up? Morrison felt the familiar spark of engineering inspiration.
Overwhelming their processing capacity instead of their physical defenses. Exactly. A coordinated strike using kinetic rounds, plasma bursts, electromagnetic pulses, and gravitational distortion weapons, all hitting the same target within microseconds of each other.
Their adaptive systems would have to choose which threat to prioritize. Across the shipyard, similar conversations were beginning to bloom. Morrison watched with growing pride as his teams began to embrace the chaotic creativity that had always defined human engineering. Of existing weapons, they were inventing entirely new categories of warfare. Commander Morrison to Admiral Chen. He activated his communicator. Go ahead, Commander. Admiral, I need authorization for some unconventional modifications to our existing fleet. There was a pause. Define unconventional. Morrison grinned. We want to turn our cargo haulers into electromagnetic warfare platforms, convert our mining ships into gravitational weapon systems, and modify our passenger transports to deploy swarms of adaptive attack drones. Another pause, longer this time. Commander, are you telling me you want to turn our civilian fleet into weapons of war? No, Admiral. I'm telling you, we want to turn our civilian fleet into weapons of war that these aliens have never seen before. Their intelligence gathering has been focused on our military vessels. They have no data on the combat potential of ships they've dismissed as non-threats.
Morrison could almost hear Admiral Chen's smile through the communication link.
Authorization granted, Commander. How long do you need? Give me 36 hours, and I'll give you a fleet that doesn't exist in any tactical manual ever written. The next 30 hours transformed Earth's orbital space into something unprecedented in human history. Ships that had been designed to haul asteroid ore were fitted with experimental electromagnetic cannons that could disrupt technology systems across multiple frequency bands. Passenger vessels originally built for comfortable travel to Mars colonies were converted into mobile drone deployment platforms, their luxurious passenger compartments now housing thousands of small, intelligent attack units. Morrison found himself working alongside engineers who had never touched a military system in their lives, but who brought perspectives that professional weapons designers would never have considered. Dr. Felon E. Elizabeth Turner, a specialist in terraforming equipment, had proposed using atmospheric processors as area denial weapons, creating localized environmental hazards that would force enemy ships into predictable movement patterns. The beauty of it, Dr. Turner explained while demonstrating her modified atmospheric processor, is that these aliens have been encountering advanced military technology, but they've probably never seen someone weaponize industrial equipment. They'll have no tactical response for environmental manipulation on this scale. Meanwhile, Captain Luis Rodriguez had been working with a team of mining engineers to modify asteroid processing equipment into gravitational weapons. The concept was elegant in its simplicity. If their ships could move asteroids, they could move enemy vessels. We're not trying to destroy their ships directly, Rodriguez explained to a group of skeptical military officers. We're trying to move them into positions where they can't use their advantages effectively. Force them into close-range combat where their superior technology is less decisive. As the countdown to alien arrival reached its final hours, Morrison stood in the command center of the modified shipyard, watching status displays that showed the most bizarre fleet in human history preparing for battle. D. Cargo ships bristling with experimental weapons, luxury liners converted into drone carriers, mining vessels equipped with gravitational manipulation systems, and in the center of it all, Earth's 3 dreadnoughts modified with every piece of adaptive technology his teams had been able to create. "Commander, we're receiving a priority transmission from the alien fleet," Lieutenant Harris announced. "Put it through." The same mechanical voice that had been threatening Earth for days filled the command center, but this time there was something different in its tone. Something that might have been confusion. "This is Harvester Fleet Commander Vexai. Our scans detect significant modifications to your vessel configurations. Explain these changes immediately." Morrison exchanged glances with his senior staff. The aliens were conducting detailed scans of Earth's defenses, and they were clearly puzzled by what they were seeing. Ships that didn't fit any known military classification, weapons that didn't match any recognized technology patterns, defensive systems that appeared to violate several basic principles of space combat. "They're trying to understand what we've built," Chief Engineer Valdez observed. "Their tactical computers probably can't categorize our modifications." Morrison activated the communication system. "This is Commander Morrison of Earth Defense Engineering. You want an explanation? Here's one. You made the mistake of giving us time to prepare." He cut the transmission and turned to his teams. "Final systems check, everyone. Doubly. In 6 hours, we're going to show these aliens something they've never encountered in 15 conquered civilizations." Dr. Kim looked up from her workstation. "What's that, Commander?" Morrison smiled, looking out at the modified fleet floating in Earth's orbital space. "The human creativity applied to the problem of survival. They've been fighting advanced civilizations that probably followed conventional military doctrines. But humans don't follow conventional anything when our backs are against the wall." The shipyard erupted in a cheer that could be heard throughout the orbital platform. Engineers who had spent their careers building tools for peace had just created instruments of war unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen, and in a few hours they would discover whether human ingenuity could triumph over alien technology stolen from the graves of 15 dead civilizations. Morrison activated his personal communicator. "Admiral Chen, this is Commander Morrison. Earth's defensive modifications are complete." "Commander." Morrison looked around at the controlled chaos of his engineering teams, at the impossible fleet they had built from spare parts and desperate creativity, at the faces of people who had refused to accept that superior technology automatically meant inevitable defeat. "Admiral, we're ready to teach these aliens why humanity has never been conquered. Not today, not ever." The alien fleet moved like a dark tide across the solar system, their massive ships cutting through space with the confidence of predators who had never encountered effective resistance. Fleet Commander Vexai observed the approaching planet through sensors that had cataloged the deaths of 15 civilizations, and felt the familiar satisfaction of impending harvest. But something was wrong. "Navigation report on the human vessel movements," Vexai commanded, from the bridge of the harvester ship Bone Collector. The command center was a grotesque mixture of technologies stolen from conquered worlds. Crystalline Zephyrian control systems merged with biomechanical Altarian interfaces, all jury-rigged together with the crude efficiency that had served the Harvest fleet for 3 centuries. "The human ships are not retreating," Navigation Specialist Kethmore reported, his voice carrying confusion that violated standard Harvest protocols. "They appeared to be advancing toward our position in irregular formations." Vexai's elongated skull tilted as he processed. In 200 successful harvests, prey species had always followed predictable patterns: flee to deep space, cluster around their homeworld in desperate defensive formations, or surrender immediately upon witnessing the fleet's overwhelming superiority. Advancement toward the Harvest fleet was unprecedented. Clarify irregular formations, Vexai demanded. The main display shifted, showing the approaching human vessels. Kethmore highlighted each group with growing uncertainty. "Commander, their military vessels are advancing in standard attack formations, but they are accompanied by non-military ships, cargo vessels, passenger transports, industrial craft. They appear to be treating civilian ships as combat units." Vexai studied the display, his predator's instincts detecting something that made his chitinous exoskeleton crawl with unease. The humans were deploying ships that made no tactical sense in formations that violated every principle of space combat the Harvest fleet had encountered. It was either supreme ignorance or supreme confidence, and primitive species were not supposed to possess the latter. Tactical analysis of human weapon signatures, he ordered. Tactical specialist Grix Val manipulated her biomechanical interface, cycling through sensor data with practiced efficiency. But instead of the confident reporting that usually accompanied this phase of Harvest operations, her response carried disturbing uncertainty. Commander, the human vessels are displaying weapon signatures that do not match our databases. Their military ships show expected plasma and kinetic weapon systems, but the civilian vessels are emitting electromagnetic frequencies, gravitational disturbances, and energy patterns we cannot classify. Cannot classify? Vexay's voice carried deadly emphasis. The Harvest Fleet's databases contained weapons analysis from 15 conquered civilizations. Nothing should be unclassifiable. The weapons appear to be improvised. AIs, modified from non-military systems. Our tactical computers cannot predict their effectiveness or optimal countermeasures. Admiral Sarah Chen stood on the bridge of the dreadnought Defiance, watching the alien fleet approach with the steady calm that had carried her through 15 years of military service. Around her, the bridge crew worked with quiet efficiency, their nervousness controlled but not eliminated. They all understood that the next few hours would determine whether humanity survived as a free species or joined the long list of civilizations that existed only in alien databases. Admiral, we're receiving tactical updates from all fleet elements, reported Captain Rodriguez. Commander Morrison's modifications are testing within acceptable parameters. All ships report ready for combat operations. In Shen nodded, studying the three-dimensional tactical display that showed Earth's defensive fleet in its unconventional formation. The three dreadnoughts held the center, but surrounding them was a force unlike anything that had ever existed in military history. Cargo haulers converted into electromagnetic warfare platforms, mining ships equipped with gravitational manipulation systems, passenger transports loaded with experimental drone swarms, and industrial vessels carrying weapons that had been invented less than 48 hours ago. Communications. Open a channel to all fleet elements, she commanded. Channel open, Admiral. Chen looked around at her bridge crew, seeing determination and fear in equal measure. In a few minutes, they would engage an enemy that had conquered 15 advanced civilizations. But they would do it as humans had always faced impossible odds, with creativity, stubbornness, and the absolute refusal to surrender. All ships, this is Admiral Chen. Today we face an enemy that believes they understand warfare. They have databases filled with the military capabilities of advanced civilizations. They have weapons stolen from species with millions of years of technological development. They have never lost a battle. She paused, watching the alien ships grow larger on the tactical display. But they have never faced humanity. They don't understand that our greatest weapon has never been technology. It's our ability to adapt, to innovate, to find solutions where none should exist. Today, we show them what that means. The first shots came from the alien fleet at maximum range, massive energy beams designed to test human defensive capabilities. The beams struck the forward shields of the dreadnoughts with devastating force, but the ships held position, their experimental adaptive shielding systems fluctuating through multiple defensive frequencies. Shield effectiveness? Chen asked. Holding at 70%, Rodriguez reported. The adaptive systems are cycling through defensive configurations faster than their weapons can adjust. Begin Operation Chaos Theory. What happened next had never been attempted in the history of space warfare. Earth's fleet didn't charge the enemy in heroic formation, didn't retreat to defensive positions, and didn't follow any tactical doctrine that existed in military textbooks. Instead, they began to implement a battle plan that could only have been conceived by a species that had spent millennia turning impossible situations into victories. The cargo haulers suddenly accelerated past the dreadnoughts, their massive hulls now bristling with electromagnetic warfare equipment that had been designed to process asteroid ore. As they closed with the alien fleet, they began broadcasting interference signals across every frequency they could generate, creating a chaotic electromagnetic environment that made coordination between alien ships increasingly difficult. Commander Morrison watched from the modified shipyard as his impossible fleet engaged the enemy. The cargo ship Lucky Strike, originally designed to haul ice from Europa, was now jamming alien communications across a sphere of space larger than Earth's moon. The passenger liner Stellar Paradise, built for luxury travel to Mars, was deploying thousands of small, intelligent attack drones that swarmed around alien ships like angry insects. Status report from the mining ships, Morrison called out. Union systems are operating beyond specifications. Chief Engineer Valdez reported with barely contained excitement. The Iron Maiden just moved an alien destroyer 12 kilometers off course using a modified asteroid tractor beam. On the bridge of the Bone Collector, Fleet Commander Vexi experienced something he had never felt in 2 centuries of successful harvests: confusion approaching panic. The human ships were behaving in ways that violated every tactical principle the Harvest Fleet understood. Their cargo vessels were somehow disrupting communications between alien ships. Their passenger transports were deploying weapon systems that didn't exist in any database. Their mining ships were manipulating gravity itself to interfere with alien movement patterns. Tactical status report, he commanded, his voice betraying none of his growing uncertainty. Commander, our fleet coordination is degraded by 60% due to electromagnetic interference. Ship-to-ship communication is sporadic. Targeting systems are experiencing difficulty maintaining locks on human vessels that are employing unconventional evasive patterns. Vex, I studied the tactical display, watching human ships move in patterns that should have been suicidal but were somehow proving effective. A cargo hauler was using its massive bulk to shield smaller vessels while simultaneously jamming alien targeting systems. A passenger liner was coordinating drone attacks from a position that should have left it completely vulnerable but somehow kept it outside effective weapons range. These humans are not following any recognized combat doctrine, he realized aloud. Grix's Val confirmed. They appear to be improvising. Our tactical computers cannot predict their movements because their movements do not follow logical patterns. What Bexhai didn't understand, and what 15 previous civilizations had never had the opportunity to demonstrate, was that humanity's greatest military advantage had never been superior technology or brilliant strategic doctrine. It was the absolute refusal to fight fair when survival was at stake. The mining ship Deep Digger suddenly accelerated directly toward one of the alien destroyers, its modified asteroid processing equipment glowing with gravitational energy. At the last moment, instead of ramming the alien ship, it activated its gravitational manipulation system at point-blank range, creating a localized distortion that sent the destroyer spinning helplessly into the path of its own fleet's weapons fire. Admiral Chen watched the chaos developing across the battlefield with growing satisfaction. Earth's fleet was outnumbered and outgunned, but they were fighting a style of warfare that their enemies had never encountered. Every ship captain was improvising, adapting, finding new ways to use their unconventional weapons systems. Admiral, the alien fleet is attempting to reform into defensive positions, Rodriguez reported. Time to show them what human persistence looks like, Chen replied. Signal all units. Phase 2 of Operation Chaos Theory is now in effect. Across Earth's fleet, ships that had been engaging in seemingly random harassment suddenly shifted into coordinated attack patterns, but these weren't the coordinated attacks of conventional warfare. These were the coordinated attacks of a species that had learned to hunt in packs, to adapt their strategies in real time, and to never give up when the odds were against them. The passenger liner Stellar Paradise released its full complement of attack drones simultaneously, creating a swarm of 10,000 small, intelligent weapons that moved like a murmuration of starlings, impossible to target effectively but devastating when they struck in coordinated waves. The cargo hauler Lucky Strike suddenly stopped jamming communications and instead began broadcasting false tactical data, convincing several alien ships that they were under attack from directions where no human vessels existed. The mining ship Iron Maiden used its gravitational manipulation systems to grab an alien frigate and literally throw it into its neighboring destroyer, creating a collision that disabled both vessels. Fleet Commander Vexi stared at the tactical display in growing horror. His overwhelming technological advantage was being neutralized by enemies who refused to fight the way space battles were supposed to be fought. Human ships were using mining equipment as weapons, passenger vessels as military platforms and cargo haulers as electronic warfare systems. Nothing in his databases had prepared him for warfare that violated every established principle of space combat. "All ships concentrate fire on the human military vessels," he commanded. Commander, Tactical Specialist Brixsdal replied with something approaching fear. "Our targeting systems cannot distinguish between human military and civilian vessels. Their civilian ships are exhibiting combat capabilities equivalent to or exceeding their military vessels." Vexai felt his certainty crumbling. In 15 successful harvests, the pattern had always been the same. Demonstrate overwhelming superiority, watch the enemy break, claim the spoils. But humanity was not breaking. Instead, they were getting more creative, more dangerous, more impossible with each passing moment. And for the first time in 3 centuries, Fleet Commander Vexay began to consider the possibility that the Harvest Fleet might not be the predators in this encounter. The battle had been raging for 8 hours, and Fleet Commander Vexay was beginning to understand why no species in the galaxy had ever successfully resisted the Harvest Fleet until now. It wasn't because they lacked courage or intelligence or even technological capability. It was because they all fought like civilized beings who followed the established rules of warfare. Humans, apparently, had never read those rules. "Status report," Vexay demanded from the command center of the Bone Collector, his voice carrying the strain of a predator who had discovered his prey could bite back. "We have lost 7 ships to human attacks," Tactical Specialist Grix Val reported with barely concealed disbelief. "But 3 destroyers, 2 frigates, 1 heavy cruiser, and Commander, we have lost the Harvester Soul Render to what appears to have been a cargo vessel filled with explosive mining charges." Vexay's elongated skull turned sharply toward the tactical display. The Soul Render had been one of their most heavily armored vessels, equipped with adaptive shielding stolen from the Altarian defense fleet. For it to be destroyed by a mere cargo ship was beyond impossible. "Explain the loss of Soul Render." Grix's Vol manipulated her biomechanical interface with trembling appendages. The human cargo vessel Asteroid Dancer approached the Soul Render while broadcasting surrender signals. When our ship lowered shields to accept surrender, the cargo vessel detonated approximately 40,000 tons of mining explosives at point-blank range. Negative, Commander. The cargo vessel's crew evacuated in escape pods moments before detonation. It appears to have been precisely timed to maximize damage to Soul Render's primary power systems. Vexay stared at the tactical data in growing horror. The humans had not only weaponized a cargo vessel into a massive bomb, but they had done so while ensuring their own crew's survival. It was tactically brilliant and completely insane, which appeared to be the defining characteristic of human warfare. "Commander, we are receiving a transmission from the human fleet," Communications Specialist Yathara announced. "Display." The main view screen flickered, showing the bridge of a human military vessel. A female in what appeared to be a command uniform looked directly at Vexay with eyes that held no trace of fear or surrender. When she spoke, her voice carried the quiet confidence of someone who had just proven a point that couldn't be argued. "This is Admiral Sarah Chen of the Earth Defense Fleet. Fleet Commander Vexay, I believe we need to talk." Vexay studied the human female, noting the calm efficiency of her bridge crew and the complete absence of panic or desperation that he had learned to expect from conquered species. "Admiral Chen, your resistance has been notable. However, you cannot hope to defeat our remaining ships. Surrender now, and your species will be processed efficiently." Admiral Chen's expression didn't change, but something in her eyes might have been amusement. "Commander Vexay, I don't think you understand your current situation. You've lost 7 ships to a force you completely underestimated. Your remaining vessels are operating in an environment where every basic assumption about space warfare has been proven wrong. And you're about to discover that what you've seen so far was just humanity getting warmed up." "Explain." Chen gestured to someone off-screen, and the display split to show tactical data that made Vex's blood run cold. "For the past 8 hours, you've been fighting Earth's defense fleet. What you haven't realized is that every ship you've destroyed, every position you've taken, every tactical advantage you think you've gained has been part of a larger strategy." The tactical display highlighted human ship movements over the past 8 hours, and Vexai realized with growing alarm that what had appeared to be chaotic, improvised combat was actually following a pattern. The humans had been hurting his fleet, using their seemingly random attacks to force the alien ships into specific positions. "You've been maneuvering us," he said, the words tasting like defeat. "We've been learning how you fight," Chen corrected. "Every civilization you've conquered before us made the same mistake. They tried to beat you with superior technology or brilliant tactics, but humans have a different approach to impossible problems. Which is, we cheat." The transmission ended, and immediately Vexai's bridge erupted in alarm signals. "Commander, we are detecting massive energy signatures throughout the solar system," Grixval reported with growing panic. "They appear to be artificial gravitational anomalies." The main display shifted, showing the solar system from a strategic perspective. Across the battlefield, space itself was beginning to warp and twist as hidden devices activated. The humans hadn't just been fighting with improvised weapons, they had been secretly deploying gravitational manipulation systems throughout their solar system for the entire 8-hour battle. "Gravitational weapons?" Vexai demanded. "Negative, Commander. These appear to be transportation systems." Dr. Elena Reyes stood in the command center of Earth's hidden research station, watching gravitational field generators activate across the solar system with the satisfaction of someone whose impossible theories had just become devastating reality. "Status report from all jump points," she called out to her research team. "Gravitational fields stable at all 17 locations," Dr. Kim responded from her monitoring station. "We have successfully created artificial spacefold corridors linking every major gravitational body in the solar system." Dr. Reyes nodded, watching as her greatest theoretical achievement became humanity's ultimate tactical advantage. While Earth's fleet had been engaging the alien invaders in seemingly desperate battle, teams of engineers had been secretly positioning gravitational manipulation devices throughout the solar system, creating an instantaneous transportation network that connected every planet, moon, and asteroid. "Signal Admiral Chen," Reyes commanded. "Operation Shortcut is fully operational." Admiral Chen received Dr. Reyes' signal while watching the alien fleet begin to realize the scope of humanity's deception. "All fleet elements, this is Admiral Chen. Execute Operation Shortcut. Show our guests how humans fight when we have home field advantage." What happened next redefined the concept of space warfare. He said that had been retreating behind Jupiter's moons suddenly appeared behind the alien fleet, having used gravitational corridors to instantly cross billions of kilometers. In mining vessels that had been positioned near asteroid belts materialized next to alien destroyers, their modified equipment ready to deploy gravitational attacks at point-blank range. The cargo hauler Lucky Strike, which had been limping away from the main battle with apparent engine damage, suddenly emerged from a gravitational fold directly above the alien flagship, its electromagnetic warfare systems ready to jam every communication system on the Bone Collector. Fleet Commander Vexai watched his tactical situation collapse in real time as human ships began appearing in positions that should have been impossible, spontaneously across the system. "Commander, they appeared to have weaponized gravitational physics," Grixval reported with the tone of someone whose understanding of reality was crumbling. "They have created artificial spacefold corridors that allow immediate transportation between any points in their solar system." Vexai stared at the tactical display as human ships continued to appear in impossible locations. The mining ship Deep Digger had somehow traveled from Earth's orbit to behind his battle formation in seconds. The passenger liner Stellar Paradise was simultaneously engaging 3 different alien vessels from positions that violated the basic laws of space and time. "This technology should not be possible for a primitive species," he said, the words barely a whisper. "Commander, we are receiving another transmission from Admiral Chen." The view screen activated, showing the human admiral with what was unmistakably a smile of predatory satisfaction. "Commander Vexai, you've spent centuries conquering civilizations that fought you on your terms, using technology they understood. But humans have a saying, if you can't win by the rules, change the rules. Your gravitational manipulation technology is beyond your species' development level," Vexai accused. "You're absolutely right," Chen agreed cheerfully. 6 months ago, we couldn't have built these systems. But you made one crucial mistake when you ignored those distress calls 3 years ago. Explain. Those weren't just cries for help, Commander. They were technical specifications, scientific data, and detailed information about your fleet's capabilities, transmitted by dying civilizations who wanted to make sure someone, somewhere, would be prepared when you arrived. Vexay felt his certainty shatter completely. The distress signals contained technical data, 15 civilizations worth of advanced scientific knowledge, all transmitted in the hope that someone would listen and prepare. You taught us how to fight you by making us study every species you'd ever conquered. We've been building defenses based on the combined knowledge of your previous victims. Public, updated, showing the true scope of humanity's preparation. Hidden throughout the solar system were weapons systems based on technologies from 15 different alien civilizations, all adapted and improved by human engineering. Earth hadn't just prepared to fight the Harvest Fleet. They had prepared to fight using the accumulated knowledge of everyone the aliens had ever killed. Commander Morrison's voice crackled through the communication system from his position aboard the modified mining ship Iron Maiden. Admiral, we have confirmed gravitational locks on all remaining alien vessels. They can't jump to FTL while we're maintaining these fields. Understood, Commander. All ships begin final phase operations. Throughout the solar system, human vessels began implementing the ultimate expression of their species' approach to warfare. If you can't win fairly, don't fight fairly. Cargo ships began deploying gravitational mines that could trap enemy vessels and localize space distortions. Mining ships used their asteroid-moving equipment to literally relocate alien vessels into the path of weapons fire from other human ships. Passenger liners coordinated drone swarms that attacked with the collective intelligence of Earth's most advanced AI systems. Fleet Commander Vexay watched his supposedly invincible fleet being systematically dismantled by enemies who refused to follow any recognizable pattern of space combat. Ships were being moved against their will by gravitational manipulation. Communication systems were being jammed by frequencies that shouldn't exist. Weapons that had conquered 15 civilizations were being neutralized by defensive systems that violated known physics. Commander, we are receiving surrender requests from 6 of our remaining ships. Communications Specialist Yathara reported with the broken voice of someone whose worldview had collapsed. Vexay stared at the tactical display, seeing his proud fleet reduced to desperate survivors calling for mercy from species they had intended to harvest. For 3 centuries, the name Harvest Fleet had struck terror into civilizations across the galaxy. Today, they were learning what it felt like to be the ones facing extinction. Signal Admiral Chen, he said, his voice carrying the weight of absolute defeat. Be channel open, Commander. Vexay looked at the human female who had somehow turned his inevitable victory into impossible defeat. Admiral Chen, the Harvest Fleet, to be request terms for surrender. Admiral Chen studied the alien commander for a long moment before responding. Commander Vexay, humanity will accept your surrender on one condition: a date's protection. Name it. You're going to help us contact every civilization in the galaxy and tell them that the Harvest Fleet is no longer a threat. And then you're going to help us find the survivors of every species you've conquered so we can help them rebuild what you destroyed. Vexay felt something he hadn't experienced in 3 centuries. Hope mixed with shame. Admiral, why would humans offer mercy to those who came to destroy them? Chen's expression softened slightly.
Because that's what humans do when we win, Commander.
We don't harvest our enemies. We try to help them become something better. Protocol. For the first time in 300 years, Fleet Commander Vexay understood why humanity had succeeded where 15 advanced civilizations had failed. They didn't just fight to win. They fought to make sure everyone had the chance to keep fighting for something better. 6 months after the Battle of Seoul, Ambassador Elena Vasquez stood in the newly constructed Galactic Reconciliation Station, watching representatives from 47 different species work together in what was being called the most ambitious rebuilding project in galactic history. The station orbited Earth at a distance that allowed visitors to see the blue-green planet that had somehow produced the species that ended 3 centuries of terror. Ambassador, the morning session is ready to begin, her aide, Lieutenant Commander Sarah Kim, announced from beside her. Kim had volunteered to transition from engineering to diplomatic service after the battle, claiming that helping rebuild civilizations was more interesting than building weapons. Vasquez nodded, studying the diverse group assembled in the station's central chamber. Former Harvest Fleet officers sat alongside survivors of destroyed civilizations, while human mediators worked to facilitate conversations between species that had considered each other extinct for decades. It was messy, complicated, and frequently chaotic, which made it perfectly suited to human oversight. Status report from the reconstruction fleets, Vasquez asked as they walked toward the main conference chamber. Fleet 7 has successfully re-established contact with the Zephyrian survivor colonies in the Andromeda Arm, Kim reported, consulting her tablet. The Zephyrians are requesting technical assistance for rebuilding their Crystal City networks. Fleet 12 has located a significant population of Altarian refugees in the Outer Rim territories, and they're asking for help with biomechanical agriculture systems. Vasquez felt the familiar satisfaction that came from watching impossible situations become merely difficult ones. Any problems with the former Harvest Fleet integration? Commander Vexai reports that 70% of his former fleet members have successfully transitioned to reconstruction duties, Kim replied. Are still struggling with psychological adjustment to non-destructive objectives, but Dr. Martinez believes they'll adapt with time and proper support. As they entered the conference chamber, Vasquez was struck again by the sight that had amazed visitors for months, former enemies working together on projects that none of them could have accomplished alone. At the central table, Commander Vexai was explaining Harvest Fleet logistics capabilities to a group of Zephyrian engineers who were designing supply chains for rebuilding their devastated worlds. Ambassador Vasquez, Vexai greeted her as she approached. His appearance had changed significantly over the past 6 months. The predatory confidence had been replaced by something that might have been cautious optimism. We have completed the analysis you requested regarding reconstruction priorities. Show me. The holographic display activated, showing a 3-dimensional map of the galaxy with hundreds of marked locations. Each marker represented either a destroyed civilization or a survivor population that had been discovered by the joint human-alien reconstruction fleets. The situation is more promising than our initial estimates, Vexai reported with something approaching enthusiasm. Many species believed to be completely extinct have substantial survivor populations scattered throughout the galaxy. The Harvest Fleet's practice of taking prisoners for forced labor means that significant genetic and cultural diversity has been preserved. Dr. Elena Reyes, who had transitioned from xenobiology to what was now called civilization reconstruction science, highlighted specific sectors on the map. The most encouraging discovery is that several species maintained hidden colonies or generation ships that the Harvest Fleet never found. The Corvani have a population of over 2 million living in mobile asteroid habitats. The Veltar built secret underwater cities on dozens of ocean worlds. Vasquez studied the data, feeling the weight of both opportunity and responsibility. How many total survivors are we looking at? Current estimates suggest over 50 million individuals from 23 supposedly extinct civilizations, Dr. Reyes replied. Each species presents unique reconstruction challenges, but they all share one crucial advantage, which is they've survived 3 centuries of persecution by learning to be resourceful, adaptable, and cooperative. These aren't the same civilizations that were conquered by the Harvest Fleet. These are the survivors who learned to fight back. A new voice joined the conversation from behind Vasquez, which is why they're taking to human reconstruction methods so well. Vasquez turned to see Admiral Sarah Chen approaching with a data tablet and the expression of someone who had discovered something significant. Admiral, I thought you were coordinating the Outer Rim fleet operations. I was, until we received some interesting communications from sectors we haven't even reached yet, Chen replied, activating her tablet to show communication intercepts. It appears that news of the Harvest Fleet's defeat has been spreading through survivor networks faster than our reconstruction fleets can travel. The display showed communication patterns across entire galactic regions, with messages moving through what appeared to be a hidden network of survivor colonies. Underground resistance networks? Vasquez asked. More than that, Chen said with a smile. Of duty and civilizations that have been preparing for this day for centuries. The survivors didn't just hide, Ambassador. They built secret alliances, shared technology, and created mutual support systems. They've been waiting for someone to prove that the Harvest Fleet could be defeated. Commander Vexai studied the communication patterns with the analytical mind that had once been used for conquest. These networks are more sophisticated than anything the Harvest Fleet ever suspected. If these survivor civilizations have maintained this level of coordination and technological development, Then rebuilding the galaxy isn't going to take centuries, Dr. Reyes finished. It's going to take decades, maybe less. Lieutenant Commander Kim looked up from her tablet with barely contained excitement. Ambassador, we're receiving priority communications from 17 different survivor networks. They're requesting immediate contact with Earth to discuss joining the Reconstruction Alliance. Vasquez felt the familiar mixture of pride and humility that came from representing a species that had somehow become the galaxy's symbol of hope. Admiral, what's the status of our Reconstruction Fleet deployment? We have 47 human vessels working with former Harvest Fleet ships to establish contact and provide assistance, Chen reported. But Ambassador, we're getting requests for help faster than we can possibly respond. The entire galaxy wants to rebuild, and they all want humanity involved. Because we proved that cooperation and creativity can defeat superior technology and overwhelming force, Vasquez said, understanding the broader implications. We didn't just defeat the Harvest Fleet. We demonstrated a completely different approach to galactic civilization. Dr. Elena Martinez, the psychologist who had been working with former Harvest Fleet personnel, joined the group with her own datapad. The psychological profiles we're seeing from survivor populations are fascinating, she reported. 3 centuries of oppression have created civilizations that value adaptability, cooperation, and innovation above traditional concepts like technological superiority or territorial control. Meaning they've all learned to think like humans? Chen observed with amusement.
Exactly.
And that's why the reconstruction process is exceeding all projections. These survivor civilizations aren't trying to rebuild what they lost. They're trying to build something better than what existed before the Harvest Fleet. Vasquez walked to the chamber's main viewing port, looking out at Earth, while processing the implications of what she was hearing. Humanity had set out to defeat an enemy that threatened their home. Instead, they had accidentally started a galactic renaissance. Ambassador, there's something else, Kim said quietly. There is a routine communications from the galactic core regions, areas that were supposedly completely sterilized by the Harvest Fleet centuries ago.
And they're not empty.
There are massive civilization networks throughout the core systems, species that fought off Harvest Fleet attacks and have been rebuilding for generations. They're requesting contact with the Earth Alliance to discuss mutual cooperation agreements. Vasquez felt her worldview shift again. How many species are we talking about? Kim consulted her datapad. The current estimates suggest over 200 distinct civilizations in various stages of recovery. Ambassador, the Harvest Fleet wasn't the dominant force in the galaxy. They were a plague that everyone else was fighting. And now that the plague is gone, everyone wants to come out of hiding and rebuild together, Vasquez finished. Commander Vexai approached with an expression that was definitely humility, mixed with something approaching wonder. Ambassador Vasquez, I must inform you that my understanding of galactic civilization was Buckingham Palace. Explain. The Harvest Fleet believed we were the dominant force in the galaxy, conquering weak civilizations that couldn't resist our superior technology. But the communications networks we're discovering suggest a different reality. Vexai activated the main holographic display, showing a map that made Vasquez's breath catch. Instead of the empty galaxy they had assumed, the display showed a complex web of hidden civilizations, survivor networks, and resistance alliances that spanned entire galactic arms. We weren't conquering the galaxy, Vexai continued. The galaxy was fighting off. The civilizations we destroyed were the ones that tried to fight us openly. But for every civilization we conquered, 10 others went into hiding and built defensive alliances. My God, Dr. Reyes whispered. The galaxy has been united against the Harvest Fleet for centuries. We didn't just defeat their military. We removed the threat that was keeping dozens of civilizations from rebuilding openly. Admiral Chen stepped forward with the tactical mind that had won the Battle of Seoul, the capital area. This changes everything. We're not looking at a reconstruction project anymore. We're looking at the rebirth of galactic civilization on a scale that hasn't existed for thousands of years. Vasquez turned back to the viewing port, watching Earth rotate slowly in the distance. 6 months ago, humanity had been a single species facing extinction. Today, they were the catalyst for the largest cooperative venture in galactic history. Lieutenant Commander Kim, prepare a message for transmission to all survivor networks and hidden civilizations. she commanded. Yes, Ambassador. What should the message say? Vasquez smiled, thinking about the impossible journey that had brought them to this moment, from ignoring distress calls to becoming the leader of galactic reconstruction. From facing extinction to helping entire civilizations rebuild. From being humanity's last stand to being the beginning of something unprecedented. Tell them that the Earth Alliance formally invites all free civilizations to join us in building a galaxy where no species will ever again face extinction alone. Tell them that humanity learned something important during the war with the Harvest Fleet, which is that the universe is too vast and too dangerous for anyone to survive alone. But together, with cooperation and creativity and the refusal to surrender, there's no problem we can't solve and no enemy we can't overcome. As the message began transmitting to hundreds of hidden civilizations across the galaxy, Vasquez watched Earth continue its slow rotation and felt the satisfaction that came from knowing that humanity had done something unprecedented in galactic history. They had turned a war for survival into an opportunity to build something better than anything that had existed before. The galaxy was about to discover what could be accomplished when species stopped fighting each other and started working together. And humanity, the species that had once been too frightened to answer a simple distress call, was going to help lead the way.